Hey everyone, this is Michael again, and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review. And Monday Night Raw is still going on as I am doing this review. It's 10:55 right now, so it's 5 minutes before the show goes off the air. And we're in the main event, and I don't give a shit about the main event, which is Natalya and Tamina versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax for the Women's Tag Team titles. I don't give a shit. We've seen the match how many times? So you already know that Natalya and Tamina are going to retain the titles. Why do I care? But Monday Night Raw tonight, as always, fucking sucked. It was nothing but rematch after rematch after rematch. It was rematch central, as how it's been every single week with this show. I mean, Monday Night Raw is just every week. Rematch galore. That's all it's been. And I think that's probably going to all go away. Well, hopefully it does when WWE brings the live fans back in attendance. Because if we keep getting rematch after rematch when the live fans come back, they're going to start booing the hell out of it. And they're going to show WWE that we don't want to see every week rematch after rematch after rematch of the same fucking superstars in the match. I mean, the only thing that wasn't a rematch tonight was Nikki Cross versus Rhea Ripley. And that was a beat the clock match where it was 2 minutes that either Nikki Cross or Rhea Ripley had to, win. So, but overall, Monday Night Raw tonight fucking sucks. And I will tell you all who wins this main event. So when the match is over. So, but anyways, let's get on with the review. So Monday Night Raw opened up tonight with MVP. MVP was in the ring, and he had a mic in hand. And it looks like Reginald. I just want to go back to the main event. It looks like Reginald got involved here. Who cares? Who cares with Reginald? It looks like Reginald's going to the back. Yeah, so. Oh, and then fire rose out from the pyro. Just, different from last week. Oh, yeah, here we go. Natalya and Tamina end up winning. And Natalya rolls up Shayna Baszler once again. Oh, my God. I'm sick and tired of seeing Shayna Baszler getting rolled up every time. Once again, Shayna Baszler takes a roll-up. This show fucking sucks. This show fucking blows. So, but yeah, Natalya and Tamina retain the titles. Off the distraction from the pyro on the stage and Reginald. And it looks like Shayna Baszler is grabbing Reginald by his suit. And then Shayna Baszler just shoved Reginald down. That was that. That was how Monday Night Raw ended. So, whatever. But back to the review. Raw opened up with MVP. He was in the ring. And he introduced Bobby Lashley. Bobby Lashley ended up coming out with 5 women. They were different women than what we saw last week. So Lashley and his woman end up coming down to the ring. And MVP end up calling for a loud round of applause for Bobby Lashley. And of course, WWE ends up putting in edited boos for Bobby Lashley. So MVP and Bobby Lashley end up going on about how life is great. MVP end up bringing up a dark cloud hanging over them. And that dark cloud is Drew McIntyre. So Lashley then got on the mic. He ended up talking about beating McIntyre at WrestleMania and then beating him and Strowman at WrestleMania Backlash. And that he doesn't want to see Drew McIntyre anymore. MVP then went on to say that they tried to move on from McIntyre by issuing an open challenge last week. And Kofi Kingston thought he was worthy. He ended up saying that the Dark Cloud, McIntyre, had to show up once again. So they got interrupted by Drew McIntyre. McIntyre ended up saying that his business is getting back the WWE Championship. He wanted to say that he would have won at WrestleMania if it wasn't for MVP, and that he would have won at WrestleMania Backlash if it weren't for Strowman. So McIntyre ended up saying that he wants his one-on-one title shot, and that he thinks Lashley wants the match also, to prove to himself once and for all that he is the number one superstar on Monday Night Raw. So McIntyre then got into the ring. He ended up saying that he could be wrong, and that maybe deep down, Bobby Lashley knows that he doesn't measure up to him and doesn't have the balls. So McIntyre then ended up asking McIntyre's woman, his models, if Lashley has the balls. So McIntyre ended up bringing up Bobby Lashley losing to Kofi Kingston last week. So then we had the New Day, Kofi and Xavier Woods end up coming out. Kofi ended up saying that they're making some good points and that he knows things move fast out here, and that he doesn't want them to forget that he pinned Bobby Lashley last week. So Kofi and Xavier Woods end up coming into the ring. Kofi then mentioned how he and the fans want McIntyre to step aside. And then Adam Pearce ended up coming out. Adam Pearce had a solution. So Adam Pearce ended up announcing Kofi versus McIntyre. And the winner of the match will face Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. So MVP ended up saying, oh, that's a good idea. And MVP was like, oh, I'm going to bring the VIP lounge to the stage so that we could watch the match. So Kofi and McIntyre end up having some words in the ring. So that was how the segment ended. But overall, very meh segment. So then we had the match. Kofi Kingston versus Drew McIntyre. Number one contenders match. Whoever wins will get to face Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. And we had MVP and Bobby Lashley and the woman. They were sitting on the stage in the VIP lounge. And this was a okay match here, in my opinion. So the match started off with Kingston and McIntyre locking up. McIntyre ended up taking Kofi Kingston into the corner. Kofi then took control. McIntyre ended up countering on Kofi. He went to work on Kofi's arm. McIntyre then leveled Kofi with a shoulder. McIntyre ended up catching the crossbody from Kofi, and then drove Kofi into the mat. McIntyre ended up putting Kofi back down on the mat with a right hand. So they were going back and forth. Kofi ended up delivering the Russian leg sweep to Drew McIntyre and a splash. Went for the cover, which McIntyre ended up kicking out at 2. And then we just saw Bobby Lashley was applauding from the stage. So McIntyre then ended up rocking Kofi Kingston. He ended up dropping Kofi with a big chop to Kofi's chest. McIntyre then stomped on Kofi's hand. And Kofi ended up countering the move, sending McIntyre out to the floor. Kofi then launched himself over the top rope. He ended up splashing McIntyre down. So McIntyre then ended up avoiding a whip into the ring steps. Kofi ended up leaping off the steps, and McIntyre ended up catching Kofi. McIntyre delivered a inverted Alabama slam to Kofi on the edge of the ring apron. So McIntyre ended up taunting Bobby Lashley from ringside, and Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw McIntyre was dominating on Kofi. We saw McIntyre end up launching Kofi across the ring by delivering a overhead suplex. We had McIntyre deliver another, suplex, holding Kofi in the air, and he was pointing up at Bobby Lashley because McIntyre delivered a vertical suplex. So Kofi got back up, started delivering some strikes to McIntyre. McIntyre ended up kicking Kofi, but Kofi ended up nailing the missile dropkick from the top. Kofi was delivering more strikes, and he delivered another dropkick to McIntyre. Kofi then caught McIntyre in a guillotine, but McIntyre ended up reversing it. He ended up delivering a suplex to Kofi, went for the cover, which Kofi ended up kicking out too. Later on, we saw McIntyre end up pointing at Lashley as McIntyre ended up hitting a Michinoku driver to Kofi. So at the end of the match, we had MVP helping Bobby Lashley at ringside because the match ended in a double disqualification. So we had Lashley end up hitting the ring and attacks McIntyre. MVP ended up coming in and ended up attacking Kofi. Xavier ended up running in. He ended up checking on Kofi. Lashley ended up leveling Xavier Woods. Kofi ended up hitting the Trouble in Paradise, but it staggered Bobby Lashley. McIntyre ended up following up and delivered a Claymore to Bobby Lashley. And pretty much that was that. So we got no winner, and we all know who's facing Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. Overall, okay match, but in the end, just stupid. I mean, it kind of makes sense because both Kofi and Drew McIntyre can't take a loss. So, but overall, okay match. Now we saw a video that was shot earlier in the day where we saw Rhea Ripley. She was confronting Charlotte. Rhea Ripley ended up wishing Charlotte good luck in her match with Asuka. Well, of course, here we go. Another match that we saw with Charlotte and Asuka. Oh joy. So both Rhea Ripley and Charlotte had a few words. Charlotte ended up saying that Rhea Ripley just wants to be like her. She then said it will be her facing Rhea Ripley inside the cell at Hell in a Cell. So we had Nikki Cross end up appearing. Nikki Cross ended up saying that she can beat both Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. Charlotte ended up saying that she would beat Nikki Cross in 2 minutes if she didn't already have a match. And Charlotte was like, Nikki Cross isn't worth her time. So Rhea Ripley ended up knocking Charlotte for always talking down to people. And Charlotte ended up telling Rhea Ripley to beat Nikki Cross then. So Rhea Ripley then accepted the challenge, and that was that. So now we had Rhea Ripley versus Nikki Cross beat the clock match. This was just a random match, in my opinion. This was just randomly put on the show, even though it's not a rematch. But the time to beat was 2 minutes, and the timer was on the screen. Before the match got underway, we had a vignette for Eva Marie Evolution. Who gives a shit? Who fucking cares? So Nikki Cross was staring Rhea Ripley down, and the match started off with Nikki Cross ended up charging at Rhea Ripley, but Rhea Ripley ended up shoving her down. Ripley was shown pointing at the clock, and she was taunting Nikki Cross. So we had Nikki Cross end up rocking Rhea Ripley with a forearm, which pissed Rhea Ripley off. Rhea Ripley then grabbed Nikki Cross, but Nikki Cross ended up hitting the jawbreaker to Rhea Ripley. Nikki Cross ended up going to the top and delivered a crossbody, and she ended up going for the pin to Rhea Ripley, which Rhea Ripley ended up kicking out of 2. So Rhea Ripley had 1 minute to win. So Nikki Cross ended up attacking Rhea Ripley in the corner. Rhea Ripley ended up coming right back with a drop kick. And there's a point where Rhea Ripley ended up beating Nikki Cross down the corner again. So there was 10 seconds left to go. So Rhea Ripley was arguing with the referee. And she started stomping away on Nikki Cross. And the timer expired. So Nikki Cross ended up winning the match. And then you had Rhea Ripley standing there like, what? It just made Rhea Ripley look fucking stupid at the end of the match here. So post-match, Nikki Cross ended up handing out to the floor. Rhea Ripley was pissed off in the ring. Nikki Cross was shown running around the ring celebrating. And then out came Charlotte. So Charlotte came out. She was posing on the ramp. Of course, we had to have pyro go off. Rhea Ripley was shown rolling her eyes. Yeah, we all roll our eyes when we see Charlotte come out for a match, or even when she appears on TV backstage. I think we all could say that. We roll our eyes every time she is on TV. So we had Nikki Cross end up taunting Charlotte, doing some 5-year-old teasing like that. That was what Nikki Cross was doing with the... I swear, that was what Nikki Cross was doing. So Charlotte ended up pointing and laughing over what just happened, with Nikki Cross winning and Rhea Ripley just losing. So Charlotte was just pointing at Rhea Ripley and laughing at her, and that was that. But overall, it was just random. It was just a random match, in my opinion. And of course, you got to have Nikki Cross doing some 5-year-old shit, teasing, Charlotte with the... So then we saw Drew McIntyre. Drew McIntyre ended up walking in on Adam Pearce. So Kofi Kingston was right by McIntyre. They were both furious after what just happened in their match. The match ended in a double DQ because of Bobby Lashley and MVP. Adam Pearce ended up telling the both of them that he's upset over what happened also. So then, lo and behold, Monday Night Raw, known for rematches. What is taking place next week? A rematch. So the winner will face Bobby Lashley at Hell in a Cell. So it'll be Kofi Kingston versus Drew McIntyre next week. Kofi ended up saying that he's fine with that, as long as Adam Pearce finds a way to keep MVP and Bobby Lashley away from the match. So we had Kofi and McIntyre. They ended up having a few more words. They were staring each other down. And that was that. So great. Another rematch between them next week. Why did you even book this match this week? So then we saw Charlotte versus Asuka for the 1,000th time. Who cares? I did not give a shit about this match. Charlotte, of course, ended up winning, where we had Asuka end up getting the Asuka lock applied on Charlotte, but Charlotte ended up rolling through and ended up holding down Asuka. So there you go. Charlotte ended up winning. Who cares? So then we saw Bobby Lashley was backstage. He was getting a massage from his models, his woman on the couch. MVP was standing there, and we saw one of the crew members. He ended up walking in, and he ended up telling Bobby Lashley that Adam Pearce would like to see him. So Bobby Lashley ended up getting up from the couch and headed out. So Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Mandy Rose and Dana Brooke. They were hyping up the tour in July, where WWE is bringing back the live fans. And like I said, WWE, once they announce something good like fans return, they're going to freaking just pound it right to the ground. So then when they keep announcing it, we're all going to get sick of them announcing that, oh, live fans are going to be back in attendance. I'm like, we know already. You don't have to keep just punching it straight into the ground. We already got the news. So we saw MVP and Bobby Lashley. They end up approaching Adam Pearce. And Adam Pearce end up asking, what happened out there? And if this is how Bobby Lashley wants to represent Raw as the WWE Champion. So Lashley ended up taking some offense to what Adam Pearce said to him. And he ended up saying that he was just trying to help Adam Pearce out. So Adam Pearce ended up telling Bobby Lashley that the Kofi Kingston versus Drew McIntyre rematch is set for next week. And if the both of them, MVP or Bobby Lashley, show up at ringside, then Bobby Lashley will be suspended for 90 days without pay. So Bobby Lashley was furious, and MVP ended up backing Bobby Lashley up, and he ended up telling him to save it for Hell in a Cell. So that was that. MVP or Bobby Lashley show up during the match, Bobby Lashley suspended 90 days. And then we had Shelton Benjamin versus Cedric Alexandra. Another rematch. Who cares? So Cedric ended up getting on the mic, and he ended up taunting Shelton Benjamin from the ring steps. Cedric ended up saying that he has to get something off his chest. He ended up saying that they had something together. They were the Raw Tag Team Champions, and they were a part of the Hurt Business. So Cedric ended up telling Shelton Benjamin to just listen because he has so much to say. Cedric ended up going on about how MVP brought them up and then later on kicked them out. So Shelton ended up wanting to fight Cedric, and he was laughing at Cedric's voice cracking, and because Cedric was raising his voice. It sounded terrible. This whole promo that Cedric was cutting was terrible. So Cedric ended up calling Shelton Benjamin that he's washed up. He ended up saying that he has years to make up for past mistakes because he's young and fresh in his prime. So Cedric then asked Shelton Benjamin, oh, how many years do you have left? How many opportunities? And what does he have to show for his hard work? Cedric then wanted to say that Shelton got a fluke win a few years ago. So Cedric ended up still kept on ranting. His voice kept breaking up. I mean, it just came off just terrible, Cedric's promo here. So he ended up saying that he promises he will beat Shelton Benjamin in the match here. So the match ended up starting. Cedric ended up going out to the floor, and Cedric was taunting Shelton Benjamin out from the floor. Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from the commercial, we saw Shelton Benjamin was beating up Cedric Alexandra. Shelton then ended up delivering a clothesline to Cedric Alexandra. Cedric ended up fighting out of the corner, and Shelton ended up dropping him with an elbow. He ended up keeping Cedric down. He tossed Cedric out to the floor. Shelton then got out of the ring. He ended up launching Cedric into the barricade, which Cedric went back first into the barricade. It looked like he went hard into the barricade. So Shelton Benjamin ended up bringing Cedric Alexandra into the ring. Cedric then sent Shelton Benjamin over the top rope, but Shelton ended up hanging on. He ended up pulling himself back into the ring. And Cedric ended up kicking Shelton. Shelton ended up blocking Cedric in midair. He tried to go for the T-bone suplex, but Cedric ended up getting to the rope, and he ended up hanging on. So at the end of the match, we had Cedric Alexandra end up winning the match. Cedric ended up hitting the neutralizer on Shelton Benjamin. So there you go. Cedric Alexandra ended up winning the match. Overall, same old match. Nothing special. I mean, we've seen these guys go at it before. And then we had Matt Riddle versus Xavier Woods. So we had Matt Riddle come out on a scooter. Randy Orton wasn't out there. Randy Orton wasn't even on the show tonight. So Matt Riddle came into the ring, kicked his flip-flops off. So Monday Night Raw went to commercial. Then when Monday Night Raw came back from commercial, we had a promo from John Morrison. He was hyping up the return to touring, and the fans coming back for the live events. So that was that. So then we had Xavier Woods end up coming out. Xavier Woods came out and he didn't have Kofi Kingston by him. And this was a good match here. This was a very good match between the both of them. So the bell ended up ringing. Both Riddle and Xavier Woods ended up blocking up. They went into the corner. The referee ended up getting in between them because they were tangling. So Riddle ended up taking Xavier Woods into the corner. And they tangled some more. Matt Riddle ended up taking Xavier Woods down. So Riddle ended up applying the body scissors, but Xavier Woods ended up breaking it because he got to the bottom rope. Riddle then ended up countering a takedown and ended up applying the guillotine to Xavier Woods, but they both end up going back down to the mat. Xavier Woods ended up getting to the bottom rope to break the guillotine. So Matt Riddle delivered two gut wrench slams to Xavier Woods. So Woods ended up bringing Matt Riddle to the mat, delivered a suplex, went for the cover. Matt Riddle ended up kicking out too. So Woods ended up delivering a slingshot suplex using the top to Matt Riddle. He ended up holding on, but Matt Riddle ended up taking him back down for an armbar. And Xavier Woods ended up catching Matt Riddle with a counter. He ended up dropping Matt Riddle into another suplex. Went for the cover, which Riddle ended up kicking out too. Riddle then ended up blocking a belly-to-back suplex. He started delivering strikes into the corner to Xavier Woods. He was then unloaded with kicks in the corner. Xavier Woods ended up fighting out, and they went back and forth with strikes. And both Xavier Woods and Matt Riddle ended up both colliding because they delivered a double clothesline. Riddle ended up sending Xavier Woods out to the floor, and they were tangling on the apron. Xavier Woods was on the apron as Matt Riddle ended up unloaded with some strikes. So then later on, we had Matt Riddle end up nailing the ripcord knee strike to Xavier Woods. Xavier Woods then ended up blocking the Bro Derek from Matt Riddle, and they were trading counters. Xavier Woods ended up slamming Matt Riddle into the turnbuckles, which turned Matt Riddle upside down into the Tree of Woe. Xavier Woods then delivered a running basement dropkick while Riddle was upside down in the Tree of Woe in the corner. So Woods ended up going up to the top, and Matt Riddle ended up cutting him off. Xavier Woods ended up headbutting Matt Riddle to the mat, but he also went down to the apron. So we had Riddle end up bringing Xavier Woods into the ring from the apron with a second rope German, but Xavier Woods ended up kicking out too. So Matt Riddle couldn't believe it. He ended up missing the floating bro. Xavier Woods was just rocking Matt Riddle with some strikes. So Xavier Woods ended up blocking the Bro Derek once again. Matt Riddle came back and he delivered the RKO to Xavier Woods. It was a pretty decent RKO that Matt Riddle ended up delivering to Xavier Woods. It wasn't bad. So because of that, Matt Riddle got the got the pin, and there you go. Matt Riddle ended up winning the match. Post-match, Matt Riddle ended up doing Randy Orton's pose, his RKO pose. He ended up looking into the camera, and Riddle ended up telling Randy Orton that win was for him. There you go. Overall, good match. It was the best match of the night, in my opinion, between Matt Riddle and Xavier Woods. They end up delivering. So, it was an enjoyable match. So then we had Styles versus Jackson Riker. This was a boring match. Jackson Riker ended up coming out just by himself, no Elias. Styles came out by himself, no Omos. So Styles ended up attacking Jackson Riker with a drop kick. Riker ended up kicking out of two as Styles ended up going for the pin. Styles ended up fighting out of the corner, but Jackson Riker ended up leveling Styles with a right hand. Ryker ended up delivering a suplex to Styles. Ryker then delivered the bear hug. Styles ended up getting free of the bear hug. He ended up sending Jackson Riker out to the floor. Styles then drop kicked Ryker through the ropes. And Elias ended up nailing Styles from behind out of nowhere. So because of that, Elias then leapt over the timekeeper's area. He was hiding. Ryker ended up taking advantage, and he rolled up Styles. And there you go. Jackson Riker ended up winning the match. Post-match, we had Omos end up coming down. Elias was still hiding in the timekeeper's area. And Omos was just by the timekeeper's area. He was looking down. And we saw Omos end up, lifting up Elias. Elias and Jackson Riker end up running up the ramp. Omos was chasing after the both of them. And I don't know, I was laughing. I was hysterically laughing when Omos was running. And he was chasing both Elias and Ryker up the stage, up the ramp. And looked like Elias ended up tripping on the ramp, which then Omos ended up sending Elias flying into the LED board on the stage. So that was that. And then Omos ended up walking back down to the ring to check on Styles. And that was that. Overall, just a boring match. So then we had, once again, Sheamus versus Humberto Carrillo. Nothing different in this match. Same shit. Just Sheamus ended up being down on Humberto Carrillo. Sheamus ended up winning the match because he grabbed Humberto's tights and the referee didn't see it. So there you go. Sheamus ended up winning the match. Post-match, Sheamus then ended up attacking Humberto Carrillo even more. Sheamus ended up slamming Humberto Carrillo and applied the cloverleaf submission. Ricochet then comes out of nowhere and flies off the top rope, breaking the cloverleaf. And Humberto Carrillo ended up dropping Sheamus next. Ricochet delivered the shooting star press. Then Humberto Carrillo then ended up nailing a flying moonsault. Ricochet then came right back, delivered the 450 on Sheamus. So both Ricochet and Carrillo were just taking turns taking out Sheamus. Sheamus then retreated out to the floor as Ricochet and Humberto Carrillo end up standing tall in the ring. So that was that. But just same shit with Sheamus and Humberto Carrillo. And then we saw Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax and Reginald backstage with Sarah Schreiber. And Sarah Schreiber was asking them how they plan to win the women's tag team titles back. Nia Jax ended up telling Sarah Schreiber that last week was a fluke and that it won't happen again. So Shayna Baszler didn't look so happy. She was saying that Nia Jax got distracted by Reginald last week. And Baszler ended up talking about how Reginald is messed up from the explosion and having nightmares. And Reginald was just wearing shades. So Shayna Baszler ended up asking, who cares? She ended up saying that they were an unstoppable force before Reginald came along. So Nia Jax ended up saying that they still are unstoppable. And Baszler was like, oh, let's prove it by going out alone. So Reginald ended up saying that he's just trying to help. And then Shayna Baszler ended up saying that if she sees Reginald at ringside for one of her matches again, she will give him a real reason to have nightmares. So that was that. And then the main event, which I said earlier, Natalya and Tamina end up retaining the titles. Who gives a shit? Who gives a shit about this match that happened? So, and that was Monday Night Raw tonight. Overall, terrible show as always. Rematch after rematch. It's rematch galore on this show. This show is just already at the bottom of the barrel. Or they probably dug themselves more deeper. Not 6 feet deep. Probably like 10 feet, 20 feet deep. This show is unsalvageable. It really is. This show continues to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse every single week. It's like they don't try anymore. When was the last time we had a decent or good episode of Monday Night Raw? God knows. I can't remember. Man, this show fucking sucks. This show absolutely fucking sucks. It is the worst pro wrestling show on television. There is no saving Monday Night Raw. There is none. But yet when the fans come back, we're going to get, new stages, a new stage, a new ramp for Monday Night Raw. Yeah, they're concerned about that, but they're not concerned on the people who write this show every single week and how fucking shitty it is. That is more important than giving a new stage, a new look for when live fans come back in attendance. Awful. God awful. So anyways, that's it for the Monday Night Raw review. Thank you all for watching. Hope you all enjoyed this review. Definitely give the video a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, and until next video, I'll see you all later.